Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
The autumnal sun, hanging low in the sky, painted the suburban avenue in golden hues, contrasting with the apprehension in Abel's eyes. He hesitantly approached his sister's house, his fingers anxiously tugging at the collar of his jacket. The request she had made of him was peculiar, to say the least, and he wondered if it was indeed wise to oblige. Summoning his resolve, he pressed the doorbell, his heart pounding in his chest. As the doorbell chimed, he heard his sister's voice, strained and hoarse, calling out from within. "The door's unlocked, Abel! Come on in!" He twisted the doorknob, gently pushing the door ajar, and stepped into the familiar yet currently strange sanctuary of Emily's home. There she was, nestled among an array of cushions on the sofa, enveloped in a heavy quilt, her once vibrant complexion now pallid and her nose raw from apparent allergies.
"Emily,"
he said softly, his expression a mix of worry and confusion. "Not great," she managed between coughs. "Thanks for coming over." Abel sat down in the armchair across from her, his brow furrowed.
"Of course. But are you sure about this? I mean, isn't there someone else who can take your place?"
Emily shook her head, her blonde hair falling messily around her face. "Everyone else is already assigned to their own areas. We can't afford to miss this weekend's sales. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year." Abel ran a hand through his own blonde hair, identical in shade to his sister's. "I don't know, Em. Isn't there some rule against guys doing this?" "Technically, yes," Emily admitted. "But nobody knows you in this neighborhood, and it's for a good cause, remember? The money we raise goes directly to supporting local after-school programs for underprivileged kids." Abel sighed, knowing he couldn't argue with that. His sister had always been passionate about giving back to the community, and he admired her dedication. Still, the idea of what she was asking made him uncomfortable. I don't think I can pull it off," he said softly. Emily leaned forward, her eyes pleading. "Please, Abel. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. And you won't be alone. I've got everything prepared. The uniform, the order forms, even a script to follow. You'll be fine." Abel looked at his sister's hopeful face and felt his resolve crumbling. He'd never been able to say no to her, not since they were kids. With a resigned sigh, he nodded. "All right, I'll do it. But you owe me big time." Emily's face lit up with relief and gratitude. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I promise I'll make it up to you." She pointed to a neatly folded pile of clothes on the nearby table. "Everything you need is right there. The uniform, sash, and shoes. There's also a wig and some light makeup, just enough to soften your features a bit." Abel picked up the green fabric of the Girl Scout uniform, his fingers tracing the embroidered logo. "I can't believe I'm doing this," he muttered. Emily gave him an encouraging smile. "You'll be great. I know it. Remember, your name is Madison for the weekend. There's a list of addresses on the kitchen counter. Those are the houses you need to visit. And don't forget to smile." With a deep breath, Abel gathered the clothes and headed to the bathroom to change. As he closed the door behind him, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the mirror.
"Well, Madison," he said to himself, "let's see what you can do."
The transformation was more dramatic than Abel had anticipated. The green uniform fit surprisingly well, hugging his slim frame in a way that accentuated curves he didn't know he had. The sash draped across his chest, adorned with various badges that Emily had earned over the years. He slipped his feet into the brown loafers, marveling at how comfortable they were. The wig was the final touch. As Abel carefully positioned the long blonde locks over his own short hair, he watched his appearance shift. The face looking back at him from the mirror was softer, more feminine. With trembling hands, he applied a touch of mascara and a hint of lip gloss, just as Emily had instructed. When he emerged from the bathroom, Emily gasped.
"Oh my gosh, Abel! You look amazing!"
Abel, or rather Madison, blushed, unused to such compliments.
"Really? I feel ridiculous."
Emily shook her head emphatically.
"Not at all! You look perfect. No one will suspect a thing."
As Madison gathered the necessary materials, order forms, a clipboard, and a sample box of cookies, she felt a strange mix of anxiety and excitement. This was so far outside her comfort zone, and yet there was something oddly thrilling about it.
"Remember,"
Emily called as Madison headed for the door.
"confidence is key. You've got this."
With a final deep breath, Madison stepped out into the warm afternoon sun. The weight of the uniform, the gentle sway of the wig against her back, it all felt foreign and yet somehow right. She consulted the list of addresses and set off down the street, her heart pounding with each step. The first house on the list belonged to the Johnsons. Madison approached the front door, rehearsing her script in her head. Her knuckles had barely grazed the wood when the door swung open, revealing a friendly-looking woman in her 40s.
"Well, hello there,"
the woman exclaimed, her eyes lighting up at the sight of Madison's uniform.
What can I do for you, young lady?
Madison felt a flutter of panic, but pushed through it. "Good afternoon, ma'am," she said, her voice higher and softer than usual. "I'm Madison, and I'm selling Girl Scout cookies to raise money for local after-school programs. Would you be interested in purchasing a box or two?" The woman's smile widened. "Oh, how wonderful! I always look forward to Girl Scout cookie season. What flavors do you have available?" As Madison launched into her memorized list of cookie varieties, she felt herself relaxing. This wasn't so bad after all. By the time Mrs. Johnson had selected 3 boxes and filled out the order form, Madison was feeling almost comfortable in her new role. "Thank you so much for your support," Madison said, flashing a genuine smile. "The kids in our community really appreciate it." Mrs. Johnson waved as Madison turned to leave. "Good luck with the rest of your sales, dear." Buoyed by her first success, Madison continued down the street with a spring in her step. House after house, she found herself greeted with warm smiles and enthusiasm. Even when people declined to buy, they were invariably kind, often praising her for her volunteer work. As the afternoon wore on, Madison's confidence grew. She found herself easily slipping into conversation with the residents, sharing anecdotes about the after-school programs and the impact of their donations. The uniform no longer felt like a costume, but a badge of honor. At one house, an elderly gentleman answered the door, his weathered face lighting up at the sight of Madison.
"Well, aren't you a sight for sore eyes?"
he chuckled.
"Reminds me of when my granddaughter used to sell cookies. What's your name, young lady?"
"Madison, sir," she replied with a warm smile. "I'm selling cookies to support local after-school programs. Would you be interested in purchasing a box?" The old man's eyes twinkled.
"For a cause like that, I'll take a whole case. These kids need all the support they can get."
Madison's eyes widened in surprise.
"A whole case? That's very generous of you, sir."
As she helped the gentleman fill out the order form, Madison felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This wasn't just about wearing a uniform or playing a role anymore. She was making a real difference, connecting with people and supporting a worthy cause. The sun was starting to set as Madison made her way back to Emily's house, her clipboard filled with orders and her heart full of a strange new feeling. As she walked, she found herself paying more attention to the sway of her hips, the bounce of her hair in the gentle evening breeze. There was something liberating about this experience, something that made her feel more alive than she had in years. Emily was dozing on the couch when Madison let herself in. The sound of the door closing roused her, and she blinked sleepily at her transformed brother. "How did it go?" Emily asked, her voice still rough from her cold. Madison's face broke into a wide grin.
"It was amazing,"
she admitted. "I sold so many cookies, Em, and everyone was so nice. I think I actually enjoyed it." Emily's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Really? That's fantastic! I knew you could do it." As Madison recounted her experiences, Emily listened with growing amazement. She had hoped her brother would be able to muddle through the day, but she hadn't expected him to excel like this. "You know," Emily said thoughtfully, "there's still tomorrow to cover. Would you be willing to go out again? I'm still not feeling up to it." Madison hesitated for just a moment before nodding. "Actually, I'd love to. Is that weird?" Emily shook her head, smiling. "Not at all. I'm just glad you're enjoying it. And hey, maybe this could become a regular thing. We're always looking for volunteers." The idea sent a thrill through Madison. A regular thing. The thought should have terrified her, but instead, it filled her with excitement. "Maybe," she said softly. "Let's see how tomorrow goes." That night, as Madison lay in bed, her mind raced with the events of the day. She couldn't shake the feeling of rightness that had come over her while wearing the uniform. It wasn't just about the clothes or the makeup. It was about how people had seen her, how she had seen herself. For the first time in her life, she felt truly comfortable in her own skin. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Madison woke early, eager to start her day. She took extra care with her appearance, making sure every hair was in place and her makeup was perfect. As she smoothed down the green uniform, she caught sight of herself in the mirror and couldn't help but smile. The person looking back at her was confident, radiant, alive. Emily was already awake when Madison emerged from the bathroom. "Wow," she said, her eyes wide. "You look even better than yesterday. Are you sure you haven't been secretly doing this for years?" Madison laughed, a light, musical sound that surprised even her. "No, but it's starting to feel like I have. Is that crazy?" Emily shook her head, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Not crazy at all. Sometimes we discover parts of ourselves in the most unexpected ways." With a wave and a promise to be back by dinner, Madison set out for another day of cookie sales. The streets were busier on Sunday, with families out for walks and neighbors chatting in their front yards. Far from being intimidated, Madison found herself energized by the increased activity. Her first stop was a house with a beautiful garden. As she approached the front door, a woman in her 30s looked up from where she was tending to a flower bed. "Well, hello there," the woman called out cheerfully. "Are those Girl Scout cookies I see?" Madison smiled brightly. "Yes, ma'am. I'm selling cookies to raise money for local after-school programs. Would you be interested in buying a box or two?" The woman stood up, brushing dirt from her hands. "Absolutely. I've been craving those Thin Mints for weeks. Come on in. I'll grab my wallet." As Madison followed the woman inside, she found herself admiring the cozy interior of the home. Family photos lined the walls, and the air smelled of freshly baked bread. "I'm Lisa, by the way," the woman said as she rummaged through her purse. "What's your name?" "Madison," she replied, the name feeling more natural on her lips with each use. Lisa looked up, a warm smile on her face. "That's a beautiful name. You know, Madison, I used to be a Girl Scout myself. Some of my fondest memories are from those days." As Lisa shared stories of her scouting adventures, Madison found herself drawn into the conversation. They chatted easily about the impact of community service, the challenges facing today's youth, and the importance of programs like the ones Madison was raising money for. Before she knew it, an hour had passed. Lisa had not only purchased several boxes of cookies, but had also written a separate check as a donation to the after-school programs. "You're doing important work, Madison," Lisa said as she walked her to the door. "Don't ever forget that. The world needs more young women like you." The words sent a warm glow through Madison's chest. As she continued her rounds, that glow stayed with her, fueling her enthusiasm and boosting her confidence even further. Throughout the day, Madison found herself having similar experiences. At each house, she didn't just sell cookies. She connected with people. She listened to their stories, shared in their joys and concerns, and felt a growing sense of belonging to this community. One elderly couple invited her in for lemonade, eager to hear more about the programs she was supporting. A group of kids playing basketball in a driveway cheered when they saw her coming, rushing to dig change out of their pockets for a box of cookies. Even a grumpy-looking man who initially tried to wave her away ended up buying several boxes after Madison patiently explained the importance of the cause. As the sun began to set on her second day of sales, Madison realized something profound had changed within her. This wasn't just about wearing a uniform or playing a role anymore. Somehow, in the space of a weekend, she had discovered a part of herself she never knew existed. The girl in the green uniform wasn't a disguise or a character. She was Madison. And Madison was real, vibrant, and alive in a way Abel had never been. When she finally returned to Emily's house, her sister was sitting up on the couch, looking much better than she had the day before. Emily's eyes widened as Madison walked in, practically glowing with happiness. "Wow," Emily said softly. "You look different. Not just the outfit, I mean. There's something about you." Madison sat down, her clipboard clutched to her chest. I need to talk to you about something." Over the next hour, Madison poured out her heart to her sister. She explained the feelings that had been awakened over the weekend, the sense of rightness she felt in this role, and the growing realization that Madison wasn't just a character. She was who she was always meant to be. Emily listened without judgment, her eyes filled with understanding and love. When Madison finally fell silent, Emily reached out and took her hand. "I'm so proud of you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me with this."
Whatever you need, whatever comes next, I'm here for you.
Tears welled up in Madison's eyes, and she threw her arms around her sister. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I'd do without you." As they pulled apart, Emily gave her a mischievous smile. "So, I guess this means you'll be taking over my cookie sales permanently?" Madison laughed, wiping away her tears. "You know what? I think I will. And maybe I'll look into volunteering for some of those after-school programs too, as myself." Emily nodded approvingly. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Those kids would be lucky to have you." As the sisters continued to talk late into the night, making plans and dreaming of the future, Madison felt a sense of peace settle over her. The weekend had started as a favor to her sister, but it had turned into so much more. It had become the beginning of her true life, the first step on a journey of self-discovery and acceptance. In the green Girl Scout uniform, with her blonde hair framing her face and a smile that could light up a room, Madison had found herself, and she knew that this was only the beginning of her adventure. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity for Madison. With Emily's support, she began the process of transitioning, both socially and legally. It wasn't always easy. There were forms to fill out, appointments to make, and difficult conversations to have. But through it all, Madison held on to the confidence and sense of purpose she had discovered during that fateful weekend. True to her word, Madison continued to volunteer with the Girl Scouts, not just selling cookies, but participating in a variety of community service projects. She found a deep sense of fulfillment in these activities, and her enthusiasm was infectious. Soon, she was mentoring younger scouts, sharing her experiences, and encouraging them to find their own paths to self-discovery and community engagement. One sunny Saturday, about a month after her initial cookie-selling adventure, Madison found herself back in the same neighborhood where it had all begun. This time, she was leading a group of young scouts on a neighborhood cleanup project. As they walked down the street, picking up litter and chatting cheerfully, Madison couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed. "Miss Madison!" one of the younger girls called out, holding up a tangle of discarded fishing line. "What should I do with this?" Madison smiled, kneeling down beside the girl. "Great question, Sarah. That can be really harmful to animals if we leave it here. Let's carefully wrap it up and put it in our special disposal bag." As they worked together to safely store the fishing line, Madison felt a tap on her shoulder. She looked up to see Lisa, the woman she had met on her second day of cookie sales, standing there with a wide smile. "Madison, I thought that was you," Lisa said warmly. "It's wonderful to see you again. And look at you, leading these young ladies. I'm so impressed." Madison stood up, brushing off her knees. "Lisa, it's great to see you too. We're doing a neighborhood cleanup today. These girls are amazing. They've been working so hard." Lisa beamed at the group of scouts. "That's fantastic. You know, seeing you all out here doing this important work, it reminds me why I loved being a Girl Scout so much. The sense of community, the desire to make a difference." Madison nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. It's been such an incredible experience. I never expected to find such a sense of purpose like this." As they chatted, Madison found herself opening up to Lisa about her journey over the past month. To her surprise and delight, Lisa listened with nothing but support and encouragement. "Madison, I'm so proud of you," Lisa said, her eyes shining. "It takes a lot of courage to be true to yourself. And look at the positive impact you're having on these young girls. You're not just cleaning up the neighborhood. You're showing them what it means to be a strong, confident woman who gives back to her community." Madison felt a lump form in her throat, touched by Lisa's words. "Thank you," she managed to say. "That means more than you know." As they said their goodbyes, and Madison turned back to her group, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was why she was here. Not just to pick up litter, but to set an example, to inspire, to make a difference. The rest of the day passed in a blur of activity. The scouts worked tirelessly, filling bag after bag with trash and recyclables. Madison moved among them, offering encouragement, answering questions, and sharing in their sense of accomplishment. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the now cleaner streets, Madison gathered her tired but happy group for a final pep talk. "Girls, I want you to look around," she said, gesturing to the tidy sidewalks and yards. "See what a difference we've made today? This is what it means to be a part of a community. It's about more than just living in the same place. It's about caring for each other and our shared spaces." She paused, looking at each eager face in turn. "But more than that, I want you to remember how you feel right now. That sense of pride, of accomplishment. Hold on to that, because you can make a difference, each and every one of you. Whether it's through big projects like this or small acts of kindness every day, you have the power to change the world around you." The girls nodded solemnly, their eyes wide with inspiration. As they began to disperse, heading home with their parents who had come to pick them up, Madison felt a tugging on her sleeve. It was Sarah, the girl who had found the fishing line earlier. "Miss Madison," she said shyly, "I just wanted to say thank you. Today was really fun and, well, I hope I can be like you when I grow up." Madison felt her heart swell with emotion. She knelt down to Sarah's level, looking her in the eye. "Sarah, you already are like me. You're caring, hardworking, and you want to make a difference. Just keep being you, and you'll do amazing things." As Sarah skipped off to join her waiting parents, Madison stood up, taking a deep breath of the cool evening air. She thought back to that first weekend, how nervous and unsure she had been. Now, looking at the positive change she had helped create, both in the neighborhood and in the lives of these young girls, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. This was who she was meant to be. Madison, the Girl Scout leader. Madison, the community volunteer. Madison, the woman who had found her true self and was using that self to make the world a little bit better. As she gathered up the last of the cleaning supplies, Madison made a silent promise to herself. She would continue on this path, embracing every opportunity to grow, to serve, and to inspire. The journey ahead might not always be easy, but she knew now that she had the strength to face whatever challenges came her way. With a smile on her face and a spring in her step, Madison headed home, already looking forward to the next adventure. The green uniform she wore was no longer a costume. It was a symbol of the person she had become, the person she had always been meant to be. And in that knowledge, she found a deep and lasting peace.
Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.